I want to have a conversation about this murder that just happened down in Georgia with Mr. Ahmaud Arbery. So, I am, okay, in terms of being involved in my community, I think I'm well respected, or at least I have a level, a modicum of respect from my community. I have participated in my local Citizens Police Academy, graduated from that. I know my mayor, I know my city council persons, my city manager, I know community organizers, I know churches, engaged citizens here. I know most of the people on my block, the 2 blocks that surround my house. I'm involved in my area. I produce the annual block party. So I think I'm a pretty well respected person, at least as a citizen in my city. Now, let's say I see some of these little raggedy white kids out here speeding through my neighborhood. People are reporting that their cars are being broken into. Packages are being stolen off of patios. I'm hearing loud music in the middle of the night. So let's say I see one of these little raggedy kids out here, one of these little raggedy, trashy white kids that I suspect, that I think is doing something. Let's say I take mine and I go out there and I say, hey, I'm finna go and address this. I'm finna go confront these white kids, see what they doing. I'm gonna take this with me to protect myself. I'm gonna go create a confrontation with some people minding their own business, who have the freedom of privacy. I'm not a police officer. I'm not a law enforcement. I don't have a badge. I don't have a uniform, but I do have some heat. I'm gonna go confront them. Matter of fact, I wind up shooting them, killing these white kids on the block because I decided I want to get out of my house and go confront somebody who I suspected was doing something. See, how long would I last? How long would my credibility in the Rowlett community last? You think I'd get a chance in the justice system? I don't. This is the hypocrisy of America. This is, if we're going to fix this, we have to speak honestly and candidly about what's going on. I know I take it back. I don't know what the white people in my strain, in my circle, I really don't know what you think about these posts, because I've never had a real conversation with the majority of you. Never sat down and had hard conversation about race, about politics, about humanity, about fairness and justice, about Kaepernick, about anything, because we don't have real conversation, right? We dance around it. We have this cake and ice cream conversations. How your kids doing? They graduate. How's work? How's this? And we never have a real conversation about what's happening. That is a disservice to both of us. That is a disservice to all of us. Because I believe that the white people in my circle are good people, but we cannot keep dancing around these issues. We have to be honest. We have to have salient conversation and agree on what decency is going to be, what our duties are going to be as citizens and relationships and as friends in these relationships. We have to clearly define what these things are, and then strive to have excellence in our dealings and honor those things we agree on. And when we see something that is out of line with our values and our laws, then we clearly speak out on it. We speak out against it. Let me read something here. I went and looked up the definition of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, at mayoclinic.org. PTSD is a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event, either experiencing it or witnessing it. Symptoms may include flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, uncontrollable thoughts, severe emotional distress, or hopelessness about the future, negative thoughts about yourself and other people in the world, difficulty experiencing positive emotions, self-destructive behavior, being easily startled or frightened, always being on guard, of angry outbursts, drinking too much, irritability, driving too fast, trouble sleeping, trouble concentrating, aggressive behavior, overwhelming guilt and shame. It goes on. As I read this, I realized last year I had a lot of these symptoms. I was calling it depression. Now I realize I was probably suffering from PTSD. Some of the effects of PTSD. Black folks are suffering from PTSD. Those white men who hunted down and premeditatedly murdered that young man in Atlanta, Mr. Arbery, Ahmaud Arbery. They premeditatedly murdered that boy. These folks are terrorists. They are domestic terrorists. Black folks have been the victim of domestic terrorism from the time this country started. And have we gotten better? Have things gotten better? Yes, indeed. That's not this conversation. We're not talking about have we improved. What we're talking about is, do we still have to deal with people with that kind of mindset, people who are terrorists? And even bigger than that, what we're having to deal with now is that this apathy, this cynicism, this silence from supposedly decent people. Because if you're a decent person and you see indecency and you see injustice and you see terrorism, a decent person would speak out clearly about that. A decent person would clearly speak out and advocate against the evil and the indecency and the terrorism. But what we have in America is we've got white folks who are just silent. Your silence is consent of that behavior. You cannot sit on the sideline and witness these types of horrific, murderous, terroristic acts and then just be like, well, it's not for me to say. I don't want to upset anyone with my post. I don't want to be political. I got to be politically correct. So what can we do about it? What are we gonna do? I'm definitely not advocating for that. That's not a solution. We need to change the laws. We need to change the stand your ground laws, and we need to have the laws implemented equally. We have to change policy. So when things happen outside of the law, it's very clear cut. It's not personal. It's not political. You broke the law. Therefore, we're going to implement the punitive action for you breaking that law. We have to get there. We're not there. Right now, we've got, depending on your political contacts and who you know, you can get out of persecution for breaking the law. That's exactly what we see. This guy was a former police officer involved with law enforcement. The first two DAs, if I'm not mistaken, had to recuse themselves because they were friends with the dude. We need to hold our elected officials, judges, DAs, politicians, mayors, police chiefs. We have to hold these people accountable for doing their duty, doing their jobs equally, equitably for everybody. But before that can happen, right, people have to own their title as a citizen. You have to own your title and get involved and understand that you don't just have rights as a citizen, you have responsibilities for the public good. That's also what it means to be a citizen. And right now we live in such a selfish society that everybody is apathetic, cynical, throwing their hands up, saying it is what it is. All of this starts with owning your duty, owning your title as a citizen. Doing nothing is not an option. Being quiet, being silent is not an option. So if you're outraged, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired with this foolishness, then you better own your title as a citizen and get involved and be part of the solution. Bring some solutions to the table. How do we address this issue? What do we need to do? I'm going to use my platforms to speak out against injustice. And so when I see injustice anywhere, whether it be black people, white people, Asian people, any kind of person, I'm going to speak out against injustice. I'm going to speak out against murderers and horrible things in our society. This is fixable if reasonable, honest, hardworking, responsible citizens decide we got to fix this. We need to sit down, have a hard conversation about this because it's real, it's adversely affecting people, It is a cancer in this country. We have to have a real conversation